I'm Chip Townsend, and this is the Team Chip Podcast. All right, guys, welcome back to the Team Chip Podcast. I am super excited to be here with you again today. As is the norm, I have a very special man with me today, Mr. Carson Rynders. Carson, how are you today?
I'm great.
Very good. So Mr. Carson is the president of our nonprofit called Kicks for Kids, and also a Team Chip student, a Team Chip dad of students. His wife is one of our actually staff members and instructors now, so we have kind of a history together. And it's been an amazing time. So glad to have you.
Thank
How
you.
are things going? Good. You're doing well?
Oh, yeah. Doing really good.
Good, man. So today we wanted to jump on and want to talk a little bit about to the martial arts school owners and any kind of really entrepreneur that's in any kind of maybe sport type business about having some sort of nonprofit in place. So I told Carson, I think what I would do is just go a little bit of the history of this. About 2004, we had a demo team that was getting pretty competitive on the world level. So we had gone and won some local and regional competitions, went and won a couple of national competitions, one through the one or two through a Taekwondo organization, and then another one through a central Taekwondo organization up in the north of us. So anyway, seeing some success, kids are excited, fired up. I, at this point in time, had began to do some competing at the U.S. Open, International Sport Karate Association, and in 2002 won my first 2 world titles. So we're getting some exposure there. We're like, hey, they have a demo team competition. So the point is about 2004, we decided to help curb some of the cost for the team. We had set up a booster association. And so we called it the Team Chip Booster Association, and we would have garage sales and donations and just all different kinds of things through the first part of the year to raise money. And then right before the event, the kids that made the cut, made the team, were prepared to go, we would divvy that money out equally amongst them and their family members. If they had multiple members, we would structure that money out to them so that it was as fair as we could make it, so that everyone got some help to travel for hotel rooms and travel and entry fees and all of those things. And so that's kind of how this scholarship program started. Then not long after that, we would obviously not completely empty that account every year. We'd pull all but a few $100s and divvy that money out, because the kids did a lot of the work. They would, we would have garage sales, so we would have them there in the parking lot of the school, and parents and families would donate stuff for the garage sale. And we would have the demo team kids out there interacting with the people buying stuff, like, hey, you make deals with them. So it was a great learning experience and a lot of fun as we did it, right? And but we would not completely empty the account. So then one day, like, hey, maybe we could use some of this money to scholarship kids that are underprivileged or that need help or whatever, that don't have access or the expendable income to do martial arts. And so that's kind of where the Kicks for Kids program got its original start. And one day it really hit us between the eyes whenever our CPA came to us and said, hey, Chip, we really need to get your books cleaned up. I'm like, what do you mean get my books cleaned up? And he said, well, you have over $100,000 in uncollected accounts receivable. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, in your QuickBooks. And so what I had done is anytime a family came in, we had a huge heart for the people, love what we do. So like if we had a family come in, and I'll never forget our first time this happened, a mom and dad came in, they had several kids in the program, and they said, hey, we're pulling the kids out. Why are you pulling the kids out? We're getting a divorce. And without thinking, I just said, this is not your kid's fault. Did we do something wrong here? Well, absolutely not. We love this. And so I said, I actually said this, if you guys aren't going to be stable, Glenn Ann and I will be stable, and they can keep coming. And so for the next 3 months, you can't take your kids out unless you just logistically can't get them here. Their classes are free. So anyway, the point of that is we were doing stuff like that, I guess more than we realized. And back to that scenario, we could talk about how I handled those scenarios. That was interesting at times, but I'd give them 3 months, and have a sit down at 3 months and kind of reassess their situation, right? But my thought was, if your family is falling apart, at least let us be a kind of an anchor, an oak tree for the kids, and keep them consistent, keep their activities, their outlets consistent, etc. And so anyway, over a period of time, so what I started doing is tracking that. And I really don't remember why. I just started plugging in like, okay, it's this month. So we were putting them into QuickBooks and invoicing them. And I didn't realize I was creating this accounts receivable, is the honest truth. And over a short period of time, over $100,000 is not paid in. And he said, what do we do with these? And I said, let's comb through them. So we start combing through, and it's like, oh, I recognize them, but they quit a year or two ago, and well, those guys are still here, but I'm sure they're not going to catch that back up now. And so we had given away uniforms, months of classes for families that were crashing, lost jobs, every kind of scenario you can imagine, because we didn't want the kids to lose that stability of what we were doing and lose their martial arts training. And so anyway, that's kind of was the straw that kind of broke the camel's back when we said, okay, can we take the Booster Association and make it something more official? We had one of our moms, her two sons still actually are team members with us today, sit down with us and kind of took on the project of converting the old Booster Association into a full 501c3 nonprofit and helping us to get that set up. So that was the start, and that was probably 6 or 7 years, maybe 5, 6, 7 years after we had started. I can't remember the exact timeline after we started the Booster Association. So here is Carson, who is now the president of the board. And I will say we have the best board we have ever had. And so Carson, we'll just kind of start here. What do you see with the Booster Association as far as how it, impacts kids? I mean, just kind of give me some of your insights. And I've talked a lot. I want you to get some time here to share where you're at with it.
The Booster Association, we scholarship a lot of things. We take care of their tuition fully, 100%. We take care of their uniforms, their testing fees, their tournament fees if they do a tournament, equipment, anything they need to be successful as a martial artist and, further and moving forward in life as well. So. Right. We even have sat down with parents that are struggling and being like, hey, what kind of help are you needing? We've had these kind of hard conversations with them too, outside of Team Chip and outside of martial arts, just to try to help these kids be successful.
Right.
We watch their grades, we watch their attendance at school and at martial arts. Right. So we want these kids to be successful, and we want to help them every way we can. So
okay. So with our program, just so you guys know, we have an actual application process. And we don't really publicly promote the program. People know about it. It's just kind of spread word of mouth. And we get referrals from school teachers, principals, all different places. So for instance, we'll have a principal sometimes call us from a local elementary because they've seen our kids that we've worked with come up in their schools. And they'll have a kid that they go, hey, I really feel like this kid could benefit from your program. And so we get referrals from all over the place, but we have an application process. So we talk a little bit about that application process and kind of how that works.
On our website, they just go on there and they click on apply here, and they get a basically like a jot form sent to them. They fill all that information out. Our executive director, Leslie, gives them a call, contacts them, sends them over the documents they need to fill out. Has them add on their financials and stuff like that, because we watch all that to make sure they're fitting in with the requirements of Kicks for Kids.
Right.
Once she does the interview process, she comes to the board and says, "Hey, I've got this kid, or this applicant. They fit all the needs. We've had a really good conversation. Right. I've interviewed them in depth, the parents and the child. The child is super excited about wanting to do this.
Right.
And as a board, we sit and vote on it and decide where we're at.
Right. So can you give some of the, maybe a few of the specific requirements that we have in that application process for them to qualify?
The big requirement is they got to want to do it.
Right.
If the parent wants it just because they want it, doesn't mean that the child wants to do it. And it's not so much the child ruling the situation, but if the child doesn't want to be there, that's kind of a big deal.
Right.
The other requirement is they do have to be at or below the state poverty level
right.
requirement. So
Right. And so we do, our executive director does actually ask for financials and goes over the financials with the family to make sure that they fit that so that we're fair to everybody that's in the program.
Right.
And then if they fit that, then she interviews them, kind of gets a feel for, like you were saying, if the kid wants to do it or if it's just the family, and then brings that back in a report to the board. And our board actually then votes on, is this an acceptable applicant or not, and do we allow them into the program? What is our cap right now? Because we do keep the program capped at so many kids.
We're currently capped at 17 children. So
Got it. Do you know what our attendance is right now? What our number is? Are we at 17 or?
Yeah, we are at capacity. We actually have one on the waiting list right now.
One on the waiting list. Okay, that's what I thought. So, I think if you're a martial arts school owner out there thinking about this, one of the reasons I wanted to do this episode is because I think the heart of most martial artists is we're servants and we want to give and we want to help. We want to help in our communities, help in any way we can. And it can be very challenging. So I sometimes get asked about this, like, how can you scholarship kids? How can you make that work? So Carson, can you tell me a little bit about how we fundraise? How does that work?
We do a few monthly fundraisers here and there. Like right now, we're doing a fundraiser with Panda Express every month. We have a night that we've set up to where you can go there and they give us a percentage of their profits.
Right.
We've done snack tables at testings.
Right.
Concession stand type situations. We do have a big fundraising event we do every year, and it's a big to do. When I took over as president, we hadn't had one in a few years.
Right.
So I was like, we've got to bring this back. So we planned out a big one. We put on a big show. We fed everybody, and we actually met our yearly goal of budget all in one night.
All in one night.
And
right.
we've consistently done that 2 years in a row. So
yeah, that's been fantastic. And I have to say kudos to you and our board. You've been integral in leading that charge and making that happen. So fundraising, you mentioned testings. One of the things that we've done is when we have a belt testing in the school, we know that day there's going to be a lot of traffic, a lot of families in and out. And so every so many testings, the board will set up the Kicks for Kids board will set up a table in our lobby and we'll mark it, this is for Kicks for Kids. And, we'll sell, sometimes some of the moms will make homemade burritos, and we've done, packs of chips and snacks and bottles of water and all different kinds of stuff. And one of the things that we found on this that is just kind of a side nugget is if you put a price on things, that's fine. But a lot of times what we do is we put a big glass jar out, we drop a couple of dollars in it, and we just say everything's donation. And that's worked out really good because people actually throw in a little extra a lot of times.
It usually works out better.
Yeah, it usually works out better whenever you do it that way. But then 100% of that. So how do we get the goods for those events? You know what I mean? So the stuff that we sell, and so how does that work?
So our board actually has approved a budget. So if we do have a concession stand, we know that we have a certain budget that we can spend to buy supplies for that concession stand. Mm-hmm. Even if it's boiling down to one of the board members is making burritos, usually we take that out of the budget so that they can not have to take it out of their own pocket.
Right. Now, originally that was very different. What we did is we just asked for donations. And so you can do this on a shoestring and operate this on a shoestring, but it's grown enough now, and you guys have done such a good job in being able to raise money that we can create a budget, and we can actually spend a little bit of money to buy some stuff out of that program. We like to say, other than insurance and a couple of federal expense, tax expense type stuff, really 100% of the money goes back to the kids. We don't take any money from this for anything. None of the board is paid. Our executive director gets paid a small amount. But other than that, it's pretty simple to run and simple to operate. But we used to have everything donated. And so now it's nice that we don't have to ask as much, from people, hey, can you give this or give that? So the gala, let's talk a little bit about the gala. The gala is that one time a year event. Talk a little bit about, kind of the logistics and how that event operates.
Well, we usually start planning about 6 months out. We get our date set with our venue. We've had a pretty phenomenal venue since we've brought it back. We've been working with Potosi Live, which is one of the top 10 venues in the country to work with.
Right.
And so they're super great people. We start planning about 6 months out. We have a team of people that go out and get donations to do silent auctions, to do live auctions, stuff like that. We have items donated from families at Team Chip from businesses here in town.
Right.
We sell tickets for the event. Then that, of course, that ticket includes their meal and includes the event itself, which the whole event usually lasts about 4 hours, beginning to end. But it's just we do demonstrations, we do breaking demonstrations, we do some talking. We usually have a keynote speaker.
Right.
So we've got a lot of stuff that goes on during the night, and there's a lot of learning about the program for people that don't know about it, and then there's just a lot of just pure fun and entertainment. Right. So,
and I'll say as a school owner too, it's a great culture event too. Just the different people getting to interact and mingle that don't normally get to see each other. So all these families from all the different areas, from your PWE 4 to 6 year olds to your oldest adult students, are showing up, and they're getting to cross paths and kind of hang out. So as a martial arts school owner and operator, it's also great for the culture and even, I would say, retention, because you're getting people to connect and relate, and it turns out really well. You mentioned Panda Express a while ago, and I want to throw kind of a shout out for Panda Express. A while back, and you can kind of speak to this, there was a glitch with the fundraising one night. Tell us about that.
So we had it all set up. We had the approval on email. We had one of the families call me directly and was like, "Hey, they don't know what we're talking about.
Right.
We're telling them we're with Kicks for Kids, and they seem to be oblivious." So I called out there and I was like, "Hey, do y'all know there's a fundraiser today for Kicks for Kids?" And they were like, "No, we didn't." And for them, it's getting to be a monthly thing, so they're getting used to it, and they know we do it every month. And they were kind of caught off guard too.
Right.
And the manager on duty was like, "No, I didn't realize." And he said, "It's not even on my screen." He said, "But let me check into it." So, a couple of days passed. I got an email from the community at Panda Express, and they said, "Hey, we're really sorry. There was a computer issue with it. Like, they owned it straight up, and we're really sorry that happened. We're going to look at sales for the day and come up with an amount to go ahead and donate to Kicks for Kids so we can continue to move forward as a business and as a partnership." And about a week or two later, I got an email, and they gave us an amount which actually was better than we'd ever had, we'd ever earned on a night. And so it was super awesome. Of course, we're continuing that partnership with them, and like I said, we were totally caught off guard with it. So
yeah, it was awesome. And again, kudos to Panda Express, but I just kind of thought, that stinks, because we've been enjoying doing it with them. Our families were kind of enjoying, I think, hey guys, it's Panda Express night. It's going to, support Kicks for Kids. And, a lot of families were going over and getting their food there that night. And then that happened, and I thought, it just ended. And then you get the email later from their community or whatever, and we ended up getting more money. So what they did is they just gave us a percentage of all their sales from that night. Mm-hmm. And it was like, whoa. And so it wasn't just the people that asked, but they just gave us the whole.
Yeah.
Well, kudos to them, man. What a cool deal. So what I wanted to jump to next is you had mentioned earlier that we scholarship not just their dues. So, if you're a martial arts school owner, there's uniform, there's sparring gear, there are potentially testing fees. There's a lot of other stuff that comes along with doing martial arts over a long period. So talk about a little bit, if you would, Carson, how do we handle those things when they come up? Does that make sense? Like when a kid is coming up for testing or a kid's coming up for gear, and just kind of run through that process.
So we've actually kind of streamlined it pretty close this last few months. Now we get with the chief instructor. He gives us a report every month, mm-hmm. and he tells us, hey, these are the kids that I'm expecting to test.
Right.
So that we can kind of, we got 4 kids testing this month. We can budget for that. We can allow for it in the budget, and we vote on it. And of course, when it comes to uniforms and testing fees and all that stuff, unless there's a major behavior issue or a school problem, we tend to go ahead and just, hey, that's approved, no problem.
Right.
Let's move forward. Because if our instructors are saying they're ready to test, then why would we not approve that?
Right.
If there's a uniform change coming up, like they're going from a white belt or a white uniform to a blue uniform with black belt club, we know that at a certain belt change, they're allowed to be asked into the black belt club, and if they accept that, then we buy their new uniform for them.
Right.
We take care of, like I said, their testing fees. We take care of equipment, and their equipment's kind of, I say take care of.
Right.
We vote on it as a board, but it's also earned. Like they're not just given this equipment. We have a conversation with them of, hey, congratulations, you've earned your green belt. Along with your green belt, you've also earned your boxing gloves.
The privilege of getting the gloves, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That way you can continue your journey and continue your training. Your next step, your next equipment upgrade is going to be your chest protector,
Right.
and you have a chance of earning that by this belt.
Right. So in our martial arts school, just to try to help make that make a little bit of sense, as people come in, instead of having them buy all their gear up front, and I know some of you guys are like, oh no, sell them everything up front. I get that. We choose not to do that. We get them signed up, they get into class, and then within the first belt or so, they need a headgear, and then they need their shin pads, and then they need a chest protector. And we kind of stage out their gear so it's not as cost prohibitive for people to get started, right? And so we spread it out, and that's what Carson is talking about. Whenever they become eligible for that next thing, kind of let them know. But something I love about what you're saying too is we're really big on earn. We don't give anything. Scholarships are not a handout; they're an investment, and we try to present it that way to the students and the parents that are recipients of these as well, and the board and everybody else around. So whenever the kids are in the program, you mentioned this earlier, and I want to talk about it a little bit. We monitor grades and activities. You mentioned the chief instructor being involved. Can you kind of speak to that, like monitoring grades and things like that?
So one of the requirements of Kicks for Kids is they're supposed to bring or turn in their report card to our executive director,
Right.
And the chief instructor as well.
Right.
That way we can see that they're doing good in classes. If they're struggling, we try to help them on the backside.
Right.
We help with the parent, and if the parent doesn't know how to talk to the counselor, we work with them on that, on how to talk to the counselor
Right.
to address their issues. But we do monitor their grades. We monitor their attendance even at school,
Right.
And their behaviors. If they're getting bad marks at school, that's a problem.
Right.
That's one of the requirements is they have to be well behaved at school and at the martial arts school. So.
Right. And the idea behind that is to teach them responsibility, to teach them to earn. And I think that's really powerful. And I love the way you guys are handling that and helping with that as well. Because in the martial arts school, we already have a bring your report card in to earn a patch type thing. And so we work with the kids on that as well. But I just don't want you to get the idea that we just willy-nilly raise money and throw it out to anybody, right? So we've had to tell kids in the past, hey, your behavior's gone south at school. You're getting bad marks. The teachers are having trouble. No testing. You're going to have to wait. You're going to have to improve your character performance before we can allow you to move forward. So again, I just don't want it to feel like it's just like, okay, well, you're approved, you're in, and we're just going to hand out. We're trying to hold those little guys accountable to, again, earning and good behavior, et cetera. So there's just so much more to it whenever it's done well, I believe, than just handing out money.
And the reality is not only we're teaching the kids, sometimes we're teaching the parents.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of parents out there that haven't had this type of training where they understand the responsibility and even the responsibility behind owning up to a scholarship and the requirements of that.
Absolutely.
So we have to have those hard conversations sometimes with them.
Absolutely. And that can be tough. And sometimes the parents don't get it, and so it becomes a lesson for the parent. And look, you see their grades are down. Oh, look over here. They're talking out in class. They're disrespecting their teachers. Whenever this is a problem, this is a problem. I actually had a dad who was not a Kicks for Kids dad one day get upset with me because we look at the citizenship side of the report card just as heavily as the grade side, right?
Absolutely.
And, well, why? Why does that matter? And I said, well, sir, it matters because when grades go down, almost always these citizenship things are going down or are already down, right? In other words, respects authority. Again, like I said, talking out in class or follows directions well, all those things. When those grades are negative, the grades themselves are negative, right? And so, all of that ties together and it matters. And sometimes when you're explaining that to the kid, the parent's going, oh, I didn't really think about it that way, right? So it's a great lesson. So back to the program. So the scholarshiping, again, is scholarshiping tuition. It's scholarshiping some of their equipment as needed. Now, we do some special events through the year. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Like we'll do in-house tournaments where we do things like that. How do we handle that with the Kicks for Kids kids?
So on them, they're approved by the board to get one tournament a year.
Got it.
Outside of that, it's up to them and their parents as to whether or not they do that. They can also come and do a special request to the board. Right. And, if we as a board say, wow, this kid's been outstanding. His attendance has been great. He's really doing what he needs to do to keep his scholarship and, to do all the things. And there's been times when we've approved for that child to have another tournament.
Right.
just kind of depends on the situation at that point.
Right.
So yeah.
Very cool. So one thing I did want to address, and I'm thinking it might be a question rolling in people's heads. Do these kids wear different uniforms, or do they look different than any other kid?
They don't. In fact, they're 100% anonymous from any child on the mat. And for that matter, most of our instructors don't necessarily relate them as Kicks for Kids kids.
Right.
They're just another child on the mat, another student that's doing the thing. And if they forget their gear bag or their what they need for class, then they've got to do push-ups just like everybody other kid
else
does. So
right.
So there's no different treatment there.
Well, I don't want to segue too much, but I think this is a good time to say, and I've probably talked about this in the podcast before, but whenever kids come in and there is a special case attached to them, I'll just use an example. I have a kid that's been with me over 20 years who is, he does not have Down syndrome, but he has some definite learning disabilities and he's legally deaf. Many, many times those kids are stuck over at the side in some ancillary program, right, for special kids. One of the things that we've taken a lot of pride in through the years, and this is kind of tied back to no one knows who the Kicks for Kids kids are. Number one, anonymity. We don't want them to have bad feelings or be self-conscious or be looked down upon, right? Mm-hmm. But many, many times, kids who have a need, no matter what, and I'm going to probably rub some people wrong, I can't stand all the labels that kids are given. They're hyper anxious, they're this, ADD, ADHD. I know there are some that may have a real issue there, but many times I personally think it's just a label getting stuck on a kid, right? But when we label our kids and then they get pushed off into the special group, they're treated differently. One of the things about Kicks for Kids is these kids are just another kid on the mat, and they're treated the same, given the same respect, looked at the same. You know what I mean? Like, and it's so powerful. Like this young man that's been with me for over 20 years, I'll never forget this. He was in occupational therapy. He was in all of these different special things at school. And within a year or two of him coming in and training with us, they had pulled him out of all of his therapy. And they were like, we don't know what you're doing with this guy, but keep doing it because he's basically checked out of our programs. We have nothing for him. And the parents were beside themselves excited. And here was the key. We didn't treat him special. That sounds bad, but we didn't come in, oh, poor you. We come in and said, get that uniform on, get that belt on, and get to work, and let's go. And, of course, we did it in an appropriate way for him, right? But he was just not, and he's still he was there last night. He's on the mat training over 20 years later. But there's a lot of power. And it ties to this because these kids sometimes come out of hard situations. They have maybe learning disabilities, whatever that is. We just bring them in and treat them as normal as we can. And they absolutely flourish, and they love that. All right, guys. So, Carson, I alluded to this earlier in the podcast, but we have like the best board we've ever had. In the past, the board is always a challenge. So when you have this nonprofit, you need a board of people that's relatively diverse, even people that see things way different than you, because they see perspectives you don't. And they bring good things to the table sometimes, even though you're like, I get that. But you need that in a board to keep things balanced. So in the past, man, boards have been such a challenge because we would have parents, especially when in the beginning when we had it kind of lean towards helping the demo team. Well, my kid's on the demo team. They've earned this privilege that they're there. Okay, we want to be a part of the board and help out. As soon as their kid was either not on the demo team or left the school, boom, you're ghosted. Yeah. Yep. And so we have an amazing board. So kind of speak to the board a little bit, how the board works and that sort of thing.
We've got a really diverse board right now. They're super involved in their kids' lives. They're all Team Chip family in some way or another, whether they're parents or they're students. Some are both, like myself.
Right.
But the struggle kind of in the beginning was, like you said, they ghosted if they left, or their kid decided to check out, they left. Is really thinking about who's on the board and what their background is.
Right.
We have a salesman on our board.
Right.
We have a couple of salesmen.
Right.
We have a regular stay-at-home mom, a couple of stay-at-home
Right.
moms. We've got a secretary on our board.
Right.
We've got someone in the medical field on our board.
We have someone that runs a large car dealership on the board. We have, I think you just mentioned medical field, right?
Yes, we have a lady that's from Hardin Simmons that has a huge nonprofit background.
Right.
In her pocket. So we really have thought about who all's on the board. We also have a teacher. He's a principal, I guess,
Right.
isn't he? But so we've got a lot of fingers in a lot of different places with our board, and it really brings a great perspective, because when we're discussing something, I may bring something up, and then someone says, well, "What about this?" And then it's, "What about this? What
Right.
about this?" And then we kind of come to the conclusion, okay, we like all those ideas. Let's kind of mush it all together and make it happen. So I think really thinking about who you have, all the way down to, like, we have a Facebook page, all the way down to someone who's got a social media background, like
Right.
who can help us run social media, because I'm not that guy.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's what we've really focused on, is being very pointed in who we've asked to be on the board and talk to about being on the board.
Very cool. And then on the board, I believe there are terms, right? Like 2 years, is it a 2-year term? Is
There are terms. We have a huge book of bylaws that we have to
Right.
live by. That occasionally we've adjusted for life and changes in the world and
sure.
different requirements. Actually, when I started on the board, we had a 5-child limit, I think.
Right.
And we quickly boosted it to 10, and then boom, we were at 17.
Right.
Just because our board is so strong. They're so good at doing what they do.
Right.
And stewarding the money the right way, and making sure they're staying on top of things, and coming to their monthly, most of the time monthly board meetings,
Right.
and just being a part. And
Right. Well, I would say we've been really blessed because the board is all 100% volunteer. We try very hard not to be overbearing and have too many meetings. So typically we meet once a month for about an hour. Sometimes it lasts a little bit longer, but you've done great in kind of having an agenda lined up and being ready with topics and the things that we need to cover and talk about. But we actually, even the CPA that does the books for the nonprofit is a past parent who has continued to volunteer and do the books for the. So when you're a martial arts school owner, a lot of times you have a pretty awesome pot of people to draw from already. And you just have to ask. You
Right.
just kind of reach out and talk to those folks about, would they be interested in helping? And most people have the heart for it. And if you can get it scheduled and set up and minimize how much you have to ask of them, the cool part with our board now is it's diverse, and we have a larger board now than we've ever had, really. And so each person can kind of take a little piece, and it doesn't take a lot of time from them to
Right.
make those little pieces work. So that's been really good. So we've covered a lot of territory here. I'm going to encourage you, if you're listening, and again, I think this episode was important because I get asked about this a lot whenever people find out we have a nonprofit, like, how does it work and how could I do that? And is it helpful? Yes, it's helpful. It's helpful on many fronts. It's helpful in deferring some of the costs. Another thing I wanted to mention too is our martial arts school charges a discounted rate for these kids as well. So we're not trying to make our month or make our year off of Kicks for Kids. We're trying to, that's part of the way Glenn Ann and I look at giving back too. We don't charge full rates. We charge a very discounted rate for each of these kids in this program, but just enough to kind of cover our cost on them really is it. And so it's not about the making money. It's about serving. It's about, in my mind, I hate to say it, but kind of doing God's work. That's what we're here to do, is serve,
Absolutely.
give back in every way possible, right? And so I would encourage you, yes, it's helpful. One of the other fronts, like Carson had talked about, is kind of getting a chance to kind of counsel parents or come alongside a parent that maybe doesn't have help, or kind of counseling these kids a little bit on, hey, here's why your grades work this way, and here's why working hard earns you good things. And, there's just so many positive things that come out of it. So I would encourage you to do it, is the point. And if you're thinking about doing it, where do you start? You start small. You get a few people together. You start laying. And the next thing is laying the groundwork for it. But reach out to someone like us who's operating something like this, and we'll be happy to give you some nuggets and kind of nudge you along and maybe encourage you with it some. So, there are ways to get help. So if you're a martial arts school owner thinking about doing this, it's been a great program. We've had now, 1, 2, 3 kids earned their black belt. Is that right?
3 earned their black belt and 1 became an instructor.
Right. We had one who was one of our super strong instructors for a few years, ended up getting married, has got a baby, having a great life now. And I have to say, came out of a kind of a rough situation, like single mom, life not great, right? And seeing that is just powerful. And I know you're thinking, in all these years, you've only had 3. Well, 3's better than none. And it's something those kids would have never earned and had it not been for this program. And it only takes changing one life to change the direction of the world sometimes, you know what I mean? So it is worth it, and it's a powerful thing. So any last minute nuggets or wisdom for everybody out there around this kind of thing?
No, not that I can think of. We've covered a lot. So.
We have. Yeah, it's been good. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I am super thankful, Carson, for you as a dad, a friend that, our friendship we've developed over the years, and a martial artist, a black belt a training partner on the mat, Kicks for Kids board president, and all the things that you and your wife and your family pour back into our school and into our organization. We're super thankful for you. So thanks for being here.
Yes, sir.
Sharing some nuggets. It's been
Appreciate
great.
it.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like it, love it, share it, and all of those things. Give us a review. And if you want to hear more, just hang out for the next week and let us know what you want to hear about. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for tuning into the Team Chip Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget, subscribe, share, and or leave a review, because we need you. We appreciate you so much, and without you, we can't make this happen. Remember, consistency is the key to success, so go out there and never be outworked.